So sexual orientation really is who a person is romantically attracted to. So for example, heterosexual, typically you are attracted to the opposite gender. If you are bisexual, you are attracted to both genders. If you are gay or lesbian, you are attracted to same gender. So that's really what it comes down to, is like romantic attraction. Gender identity is the gender that a person individually identifies as. So for example, I identify as female, and some people identify as more than one gender. So someone can identify as he, they, or they can identify as they and be considered non-binary. And then from there, it can get more nuanced and complicated, but that's kind of the general tip of the iceberg, I would say. So I think there is increasing acceptance for the LGBTQ plus community in society, especially with, and I guess it would be Generation Z, the current group of individuals who are coming of age. So for example, I have an 18-year-old and I have a 14-year-old daughter. So within that generation, there's a lot more acceptance and activism and use of social media for that, and just general awareness of things and open conversations. So I think especially with that generation, there's a lot more acceptance. I think societal wise, we've seen more acceptance, especially with the across the board legalization of gay marriage. Although I do have concerns and fears that we may be backtracking in terms of acceptance, just because of the recent political climate and goings on with that. So I think as a society in general, in terms of creating a society of a culture of inclusion, is really trying to understand each person where they're at, and trying to refrain from expressing our own discomfort or questions or just insecurities that we do have, and really trying to engage in meaningful conversation with individuals. I think that's what can be done on an individual level. Something that can also be done is something as simple as putting your preferred gender pronouns on your Zoom ID, because it lets someone know that, hey, I recognize that others may have different gender orientation than what I just immediately perceive based on societal influences, and I'm open to knowing what yours are. And I think just that kind of initial step can go a long way. Like I said, also having those really open conversations and being curious and being willing to learn. I think that is a big move forward, and then trying to replicate that on a larger level, whether it's at a school or university, or within a specific, at a gym or a specific sports, league, something like that. Just trying to replicate that individually, and then spreading it out on a smaller level, and then that kind of momentum tends to grow. I think the most common misconception about the LGBTQ plus community is that it's a uniform community, or that they, as a unified group, believe a specific thing or identify with a specific political affiliation, or tend to do things a certain way. I think it's just the same with any sort of group, and stereotypes being applied to them at a higher level, is that when we're looking at that specific group, there's a lot of different types of people represented within it. So for example, lesbian, gay, LGBT, transgender, queer, I forgot the order, but bisexual, and then plus, right? So it just really opens up And within those identifications, we're really looking at intersectional identification as well. So what is their ethnicity? What is their education level? What is their socioeconomic demographic, right? So again, it's just those stereotypes and really trying to get beyond that and looking at identity as something that's really intersectional and specific to each individual based on who they are and what they relate to and their background. So I think first and foremost, you want to find out what they want to be called, because it's not the same as this, but so for example, someone has a longer name and they prefer to go by a nickname and they really don't like being called their full name. It's kind of, but to not the same thing, similar, right? It really comes down to preference, and you want to ask, what would you like me to call you? And not go up and just assume based on your perceived gender identity, attach a gender term like Miss or Mrs. or Mr., that sort of thing. And also, like I was talking about before, asking them what pronouns they prefer to be called, and that can really help for you to not offend. Additionally, we're gonna mess up because you don't always know. Sometimes it's awkward to ask, or you don't have the opportunity and you might make a mistake. And when you are corrected, the right thing to do, at least what I've been told and based on my experience, is to own up to the mistake, say I'm sorry, and don't make a big deal out of it, but then make a practice of when you see that person, making sure that you do address them based on how they want to be addressed. One of the best ways to reach really members of any sort of community that you're hoping to reach out to provide help, alliance, whatever with, is to look on social media, find out local chapters or groups, look at websites, find out how to contact them and get in touch with them to be able to, create a partnership or whatever an organization is hoping to do. Another way is to look to people within the organization who are associated with something like a DEI committee or a specific culture committee, who, if they are not already affiliated with that community and have connections, can find out information for further connections.